Right, good morning. This is a quick video about antibiotic resistance, quick 7-mark question involving antibiotic resistance, which is basically a form of natural selection. So this is evidence for natural selection. Now you may get a variation of questions around this topic, but they're all basically the same. Explain the development of antibiotic resistance in bacteria. And this could be 7 marks, okay? This could be a 7-mark question. Now, common mistakes here. Sometimes the students use the word pathogen, or they say the word virus, or they say the word germ or disease, or something like that. You need to make sure you're just using the word bacteria, okay? Because this is specifically about antibiotics, okay? Which is only used to kill bacteria. So, how do you answer this question? Let's get on with it. First of all, antibiotics kills bacteria, so you get a mark just for stating that antibiotics kills bacteria, okay? It doesn't kill viruses, it doesn't kill human cells, it doesn't kill fungi, it kills bacteria. Done. So we take some antibiotics and there's millions and millions of bacteria in our body, and we hope that it kills the bad ones, and we hope that it kills all of the bad ones. But sometimes some bacteria are resistant to antibiotics and do not die, okay? So you can state that some of the bacteria will have a gene which makes it resistant to bacteria, okay? Which makes it resistant to antibiotics, sorry. So some bacteria will be resistant to antibiotics and do not die. Maybe 1 in a million or 1 in a billion of them won't die. This variation is due to a random mutation. So these bacteria that don't die have a random mutation in their genes which causes them to be resistant to antibiotics. So they resist the antibiotics and they survive, okay? So this variation is due to random mutation, and that's just at random, okay? It's just randomly, some of the bacteria, by the law of probability, won't die because they'll have that gene. Now, these resistant bacteria with the random mutation have a selective advantage, okay? So they have an advantage. They're not being killed by antibiotics, so they're still alive in your body, causing some harm. The resistant bacteria then will reproduce, okay? They reproduce asexually, so they just divide by mitosis and they reproduce, okay? The mutation gene for resistance is passed on to the offspring. So these bacteria that survived have this gene, which is caused by a random mutation, and they can then pass that gene on to their offspring, okay? So then now there's more and more bacteria building up that are resistant to antibiotics because they all have this gene. The offspring are resistant to antibiotics. So you have to state that the offspring are now resistant to antibiotics, okay? So they're surviving the antibiotics. So it doesn't matter how much more antibiotics you take, they're surviving. And then the final point is the resistant bacteria are more numerous and survive antibiotics, okay? And then you can state that evolution has occurred. So now you have a population living in your body that are resistant to a certain type of antibiotics that you've been taking, okay? So now we have almost like a separate new species that is now resistant to antibiotics. And this is a big problem around the world. But that's what we're doing, okay? So once again, just pause the video and go over these points. Make sure you've got them in that order, and you should be fine to get 7 out of 7 marks. Antibiotic resistance, natural selection. You can also use this model for natural selection. You can use this to answer other questions about how evolution happens. You can just substitute the word antibiotics. It works in the same way. A random mutation happens. That random mutation is passed on to offspring, and then that species will survive. Okay, so you can kind of relate this question to any question involving natural selection. Okay, so there's the title again. Explain the development of antibiotic resistance in bacteria. There's an easy 7 marks for you. Don't forget, don't use the word pathogen, use the word bacteria, because pathogen can mean fungus, it can mean virus, it can mean anything, it can mean a parasite, and antibiotics only focus on bacteria. Okay, thanks for watching and see you soon.